Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you might have noticed from the thumbnail for this video that this is my response video to the larger Lenormand spread that I read earlier in the week. So I've done that video. And for this video, per my wonderful viewers' request, this response video, I'm going through a cycle of switching between Tarot de Marseille and other systems. And so this video is the time when I am doing my Continental Tarot system response. And what is Continental Tarot? Well, the Continental Tarot is the branch of evolution from Tarot de Marseille that was before the Golden Dawn's branch that grew out of the earlier tarot tradition, but was created mostly in France and a little bit and in Spain. And includes such people as Eliphas Levi, as Etea, as Pappus, as even Oswald Worth, who is British, but did follow the Continental Tarot system. Whereas the Golden Dawn went off and did their own thing, and then because the Golden Dawn is an English-speaking tradition, in the English-speaking world, it really took off and it developed and it grew into both the Smith-Waite and the Thoth deck, the Harris-Crowley deck, and all of their iterations, and those have really flooded the market, especially in English-speaking countries. The Continental Tarot system is still powerful and a little bit more niche, perhaps, for some people, but perhaps even more powerful, more meaningful, because the tradition is deeper, more esoteric even, and complicated for some, enticingly intriguing for others. So, this is my Continental Tarot response, long story short. And it's a response to what? It's a response to my Lenormand spread, which I entitled Too Much of a Good Thing. Now, frankly, I could have given a different title, like Spiritual Evolution. Might have actually been more accurate in the long run, but I titled it Too Much of a Good Thing for a specific reason. And if you've seen that video, you will know why I did that. And you will also know why, as I read that spread together with you, my understanding of the spread evolved, and I thought for a moment that maybe I should change the title, and then I decided no, I was going to keep the same title. So if you have already seen that, that's great. If you have not seen that video, I will put a card up here for you to be able to click on, hop over, watch that video, and then come back to this one, because it really is beneficial if you get the reason, if you get the foundation for this video's reading. This reading is in response to that one. Every week I ask the same question: what is the central message of this last Lenormand spread? So you kind of need to know what that last Lenormand spread was all about to understand why I'm answering the question with these cards the way that I'm answering it. Does that make sense? So do that. And remember, you don't have to watch these videos in one chunk. You can watch them in bits and pieces. It's all up to you. So watch that, come back, watch this. I also made an announcement in that video that I have a website up and running with a shop for tarot readings, and I will put a QR code here or here. One of these places, will be a QR code here. And you will be able to, if you're watching this on one device, you can use your phone and click on that QR code and hop right over to my shop. And look at the offerings I have there. It's I am envisioning a much more diverse selection of things for you, but I've got a pretty good selection there. So take a look at what's there, and if you want, order a reading. I'm here for you. Also, what also? Is there an also? No, there's not an also. What we're going to do now is this. I am going to show you the spread. And just in case you're new here, we will talk about what it was you just saw, what kind of spread it was. And then I'll break the spread into its two major components, and we'll read those components together. Are you all ready? Well, friends, here is this week's Continental Tarot spread right now. These two decks are beautiful, are they not? Do you recognize any of them? The tarot deck, which was on the top, is in the Continental Tarot tradition. It's a very modern deck. It was created by a beautiful creator named Christine Payne-towler and her husband Michael. They created this deck. And what she did was she alchemized, she distilled the tradition of the Continental Tarot into this deck. And he did the artwork, and I think it's stunning. This deck is the reason and my door into the Continental Tarot system. And I think it's lovely. I think everyone who really wants to expand their potential of reading tarot really will benefit from taking on the challenge of exploring the Continental Tarot system if you have not already, and using this deck as your gateway, I think, is a wonderful choice. The guidebook with this is wonderful. The deck is wonderful. And working with this deck, I did a year-long deep dive into this deck, which is here on the channel, the Tarot of the Holy Light. Check that out. Or get the deck yourself and do it yourself, yeah? There's also that. Now, so that deck is available. There will be a link in the description box below. The tarot book is sold separately. The guidebook is sold separately in 2 volumes. The first volume is, I would say, mandatory. The second volume is an elective, but also beneficial. But there will be a link in the description box below. The Oracle deck below is an interesting choice, and this was an intuitive selection for me. I was thinking, what Oracle deck do I want to use with the Tarot of the Holy Light? And I went to my shelves, and suddenly this deck came to my head. This is the Cosmovisions Oracle by James R. Eads. And there'll be a link in the description box below to his independent shop. And it's a lovely deck. It is called an Oracle deck, but honestly, it's pretty much a tarot, if you ask me. The organization is tarot. The names are changed and the meanings have transformed, but the structure is like a new tarot system. But he's calling it an oracle. So I used it as an oracle. And so, it's a beautiful deck. It's a little difficult to see. The artwork is very, very intricate, rich, and takes time to see. Yeah? So, it's a lovely deck. Again, link in the description box below. So friends, what are we going to do now? We're going to start with the 3 cards above, the tarot cards. We'll read those together, and then we'll read the oracle cards. And I will show you the 3 tarot cards above once more as a refresher right now. Friends, speaking about the symbolic richness of the artwork of decks. I was saying that the oracle cards took time to see. The artwork in this deck, this tarot deck, also takes time to see and asks of us the desire to learn symbolic language for the first time or anew. It's truly a rich, beautifully rich deck. And the guidebook helps us to see the symbols through the artist's eyes very well. And you saw from left to right we had the Sun card. Interesting. I'll tell you why in just a moment. Then the Five of Wands, and then the Nine of Cups. We start off with this lovely, lovely, lovely Sun card. You see the image of what could be Apollo there with the sun around Apollo's head. We also see a couple in a liaison in the grass right over here in this side. It's this side for you, yes? And we can think of that couple as the alchemical union, the androgyne. The androgyne being that which is So, there is the story, the myth, which I think was written by Plato, and was also included in the musical Hedwig and the Angry Itch, of the story of man, I think was the title of the song in Hedwig and the Angry Itch. Anyways, it's a story that when humans were first created, there were no genders. Well, I mean, everyone had two genders. Yeah, that's it. Not no genders, two genders. Probably the most of us had both a male and a female aspect together in one physical body. And some of us, I think, had female, male bodies. And so the gods saw that we were getting to be too powerful, powerful. And so they decided to split us apart. And so we go through life trying to find our match so that we can unite to become a wonderful androgyne that we were originally created as, right? So here, that's that kind of androgyne that we have in the background here. The Sun card. Now, the Sun card in the Continental Tarot system is associated with Pisces, which is the domicile of Jupiter, from which we get, again, mutable waters. Oh, I didn't talk about that yet. Okay, so from which we get mutable waters, vital attributes entering our reading here. We got the mutability of water, Pisces' ability to be a container and get ready and allow us to get ready to start this whole cycle of the zodiacal year all over again with Aries, right? It's a large container. It's got the breadth and the depth of Jupiter, of abundance, of fortune, but of depth of liquid, right? The other Jupiterian card is Sagittarius, which is big in the fiery sense. This is big in the watery sense. What do I call it? The Hebrew letter associated with this card would be Kof, which is looks kind of like a P, actually. Not many Hebrew letters look like Western letters, but the Kof kind of looks like a P, but it also looks like the back of the head. And that's why we get the symbol of the monkey. This is the monkey mind in the back, that primal mammalian wanting to mimic the human part of the brain. It's also interestingly, the Hebrew letter associated with the sun, so the sun, right? Now, because we have Qaf, we also have a rune associated with this, which would be Ehwaz, which kind of looks like an M, a double M, which is the rune for horses and horseback riding, but also of harmony. And we'll remember from the earlier spread, harmony was also important in the Temperance card. The Temperance card, which in that system is associated with Sagittarius, which is also a Jupiterian sign. Just saying. Okay, so here we've got also harmony, partnership, marriage as well. Perfect associations for this couple with the tryst down there at the bottom, partnership. But also, again, the sun, the radiance. And in the kind of darker side, that monkey mind, the monkey trying to mimic humanness, human behavior. So for the creator of this deck, the Sun card is the union of opposites. Yeah, it's the returning of the split souls, that androgyne, right? The Plato myth that we find are, in modern parlance, the soulmate, but this is a much more powerful even, and a much richer and a concept with a much deeper tradition than soulmate, which I think is a little bit trite or cliche now. Now this is, there's a depth of prehistoric truth to this idea of split souls reuniting that is indicated here. It's also the first fruits of initiation. Yeah, true conscious freedom is achieved here. Yeah, we've regained our internal integrity as both male, female. Because that integrity is actually here already, has potential here already. We all have those things that are masculine and those things that are feminine here. It's just that we put some forward and we hide others in the background. And in this card, we can bring those together, unite. Find internal integrity. Find the self, the integrated self in this card. It's the union of left-right brain, of male-female, of the ego and either anima or animus in the Jungian sense. The union of physical and non-physical as well. The non-physical perspective. We can see things from a fullness of perspective, from our perspective here as eternal beings having this human experience, from that human experience and from our non-physical eternal selves, we can integrate those perspectives into one here. Which is wonderful. And it's also wonderful because the Lenormand spread, the first card of the Lenormand spread was the sun. Now, that sun card and this sun card and the sun card in the Smith-Waite deck, or the sun card in the Thoth deck, or the sun card in the TDM deck are all different to me. But it's interesting that we do have that sun there, right? As the first card. So this adds importance to this card in this spread, I believe. That union, that joining, that integration. And that leads us to what? The Five of Wands, which is associated, now look at this artwork, look at this card. What do we see? We see a crystal there in the center. Let me show you what we see. There are two pillars, and between those pillars, there's a disc. Above the disc, there is what is probably a prismatic crystal. And that prismatic crystal is drawing in the energies from the seven visible lights, the classical planets, right? And it's drawing that energy in, it's receiving, I should say, it's receiving that energy, and it combines it into one thing, and then it splits it out onto the disc into all of the myriad physical things in the world. So this is the idea of creation, right? We draw the energy from the spheres and creates the 10 million things. Now, this is associated with the Aries domicile of Leo, which would be the Aries decanate of Leo, which would be the third decanate, which gives us Mars in Leo. which gives us the cardinal aspect of fixed fire's vital attributes entering our reading now. The cardinal aspect of fixed fire. So that cardinal aspect of, yeah, let's get going. Let's start the thing in the sustainable continuity, the little bit maybe even stubborn aspects of fire. So that ability to carry it through, right, is sparked by Aries. And because it's the third decadent, we have the exaltation of what? Of the sun in Aries. The sun, not only this card, but the heavenly body, the sun in Aries. So we've got Aries planet Mars in Leo, and we've got Leo's planet, the sun, in Aries. How wonderfully integrated, yes? And so here, what do we see? We see the dynamics of the solar system combined to imaginations forming all manner of things. Yeah, our imagination is what creates our experience of the world and creates the world around us as well. We use our imagination to do this, to do the work, to create the stuff. Our ancestors imagined and then created the wheel. Imagined and then created the cell phone, the iPhone, the smartphone. Imagined and then created the vessels that we use to ferment wine, right? So we imagine and then we create all manner of things. The alchemical gold is created from the prima materia, right? And that prima materia, the primal material, the first material, is everywhere but unappreciated. So the materials, the resources we want are there, but maybe we're not recognizing them yet. And that those resources are not only out in the external world, but also are here. Self-cultivation is also indicated here. Our soul's progress through giving attention to the workings of the cosmos. We look at the workings of the cosmos, we look at perhaps astrology, and we see how as above, so below, we dive into self through learning about what is above. Yeah, it's a self-willed empowerment also here. And we ask ourselves, if not now, then when? If not I, then who? It's me, now, here, that will do the work. Keeping focused on the present, imagining into creation. We think for ourselves. We follow our own lights. And we're able to joyfully participate in our own lives and joyfully create our own lives. We may experience competition out in the world, but we don't have to participate in it, right? Because especially if we notice that competition, it feels like a zero-sum kind of competition where at the end things are divided into winners and losers, right? That's not how things really work. If we can compete in the everyone wins perspective, it's okay to participate. Otherwise, we are perfectly allowed to remove ourselves from the competition, observe it, or direct our attention elsewhere, and do that stuff we were just talking about. Do the work, imagining into reality, imagining self into evolution. By doing the work, by being the integrated one. Right? By initiating ourselves. By joining our own perspective, non-physical, physical, internal, anima, animus, masculine, feminine, uniting into our own personal androgyne, and then doing this work. That's the challenge. And so the advice, perhaps, is this card, the Nine of Cups. Which is what? What do we see here? We see eagles flying through the sky. We see stars in a tree. We see do you see the cups in the tree? They're hard to see, but they're there. And the Nine of Cups is associated with the Pisces decadent of Pisces. Pisces, 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 Jupiter, right? All here, again, it's the first decadent of Jupiter. So we get, again, mutable water's vital attributes entering our reading here. A lot of mutable water here. And this is the card of happiness, of wishes coming true. And that's the advice, to move, to maintain as well as we can our own emotional state of happiness. Cultivating emotional satisfaction and a sense of belonging. I belong because I am who I am, where I am. And we want to realize that we are arriving after a long transformative journey, and that arrival is in the eternal now, which means that it's an arrival that is an eternal process of arriving. If that makes sense. It's not a final destination. It's an eternal process of arriving now, yes? And this card also suggests that we give voice and vision to our heart's deepest desires and wishes. Start doing those visualizations and talking, if not to other people. Sometimes it's not good to talk to other people about what we want to do until the things are actually in motion and things are formed, so that we don't get knocked off of our path and our trajectory by negative reactions. Maybe we don't want to talk to a lot of people, but we want to give voice within ourselves, to ourselves. Maybe journaling. I've started a new journaling practice about a month ago. That helps too. So those are some great suggestions to inhabit our happiness, to inhabit our emotional space of wishes coming true, of arriving into self and as self, where we are and when we are. That's what I get from this top reading. And it's interesting because what we got in the Lenormand spread was a lot of challenges, but I think this spread, rather than giving us the central message once again, I think this spread is giving us the advice. How can we flow through, around, over, and under those things that we feel are obstacles, are things that are too high to challenge, perhaps. And this is how we do it, by becoming ourselves and inhabiting our happiness and our knowledge that our wishes do come true. And continue arriving in the present. And give voice to what it is that we really want. Don't hide behind the fears of, well, I want it, but it can't happen, right? We want to crack open those walls, crack open that prison that we've confined our wishes and hopes in. As integrated beings. So we've got some oracle cards to look at, right? Let's take a look at those oracle cards. Friends, I'm sorry if that was a little bit abrupt. I thought I heard my camera turn off, so I got up to go fix it. But it was still going. That was maybe a little abrupt. I'm sorry. Here we are with the 3 oracle cards, right? And the cards from left to right were 7 of embers, 4 of birds, and 4 of trees. Now the 7 of embers are wands in this deck. Birds are swords. That kind of makes sense. Air, right? And embers, fire for wands. That makes sense. Embers, And then the trees are pentacles. which for me is the only thing that's a little bit quirky about this deck. When I think of trees, I would also think of wands. Wands are made out of wood. Wood comes from trees, right? But the embers are the wands. The trees are the pentacles. And I don't think of trees as being very earthy. I think they're things that grow. Okay, so that's my own little problem with this renaming. But these are beautiful cards. Yeah, and so the first card we got, yeah, Seven of Embers. Which is wands. You see a luminous grimoire at the bottom. The grimoire, the book, open to protection spells, and a phoenix bursts forth from this deck. Not from the deck, from the book. And for James R. Eads, the Seven of Embers tells us to set our wits to protect and defend ourselves. We may be surrounded by differing opinions or forces or things which are bringing us down, which are burdening us, perhaps. And we want to have the resources to persevere. So this card was underneath the Sun card, which is cool, but remember, the Sun card in this deck is watery, and the Seven of Embers is fiery, so there's an elemental ill dignity here. There's an discomfort here. We want to be integrated. We want to be feel our union, right? With other perhaps, but definitely within itself. But there's the discomfort of feeling like we have to defend ourselves to be able to be safe. That we have to have the resources to persevere. Instead of persevering like where did I get perseverance? That was in the okay. That was in the earlier reading from the week. So yes. Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. I've gotten myself off track. So yes, the Seven of Embers. There's a negativity to the Seven of Embers card. Now in the Seven of Wands card, what do we have? We have the idea of the guy standing up on the top of the hill, defending his position. That idea is still carried forth here in the Seven of Embers card. So it's not really all that different from a tarot card deck, right? But he's calling an oracle. I'm using it as an oracle, and it's a Smith-Waite meaning, and I'm using that in combination with the Continental Tarot system, so it is oracular. So we may want to be aware of times that we start feeling defensive. We might start feeling defensive. Because of people around us, perhaps, or because of circumstances around us. And we want to rise, I think we want to rise above that as the sun. So I think these oracle cards are going to give us a little bit of caution. So, yes, do that. But when we do feel a little bit defensive, rise above. Like the phoenix rises above from the ashes, we want to rise above to inhabit the fullness of self. The next card is the Four of Birds. Yeah? And what do we see here? We see what the creator calls a quiet moment. There's a telescope aimed at the stars to gain knowledge. Right? You see that? Now this telescope is the top of this observatory building here. Right? It's in the middle of winter. We see the four birds really small down here on what looks like a lake, perhaps a frozen lake. And we see the light in the observatory on, and we see the telescope pointed to the heavens. So the meaning for the creator here is contemplation, restoration, reflection. Very Four of Swords from the Smith-Waite system, right? But also to rejoice that we are alive. And to restore faith help ourselves restore our faith in the world. Now maybe take a pause before acting. Look within and assess what is around us. Look within and what's around. And take note of the grandness of the universe and the grandness of the internal universe as well. So, and this is what was below the Five of Wands, right? So as we do that process of drawing in, like this telescope, we draw in the energy from the universe to create the multitude of things. As we decide that we are the ones to do now, perhaps we make that decision, we recognize that we are the ones to do it, but we don't want to leap into action so quickly. We want to pause and look within and make sure that we're embodying this, the grandness of self and the grandness of the universe before we start acting, right? That makes sense, I think? Yes? Before we start doing the action of this, we want to make sure that we are doing this, which is part of this, right? It's part of both of these things together. Yeah? Embodying the fullness of self and drawing the energy of the universe in to create the multitude of things. And before we actually do that creation, we want to double check. Am I inhabiting my sun card space? Why? Because of, and that feeds right into this Nine of Cups card, right? Of inhabiting our happiness, our wishes coming true, our emotional satisfaction. And what was below that? Another cautionary tale. It's a beautiful card. Yeah? The lavender fields cover the land, and the workers pick the crop. And a tractor delivers the day's work to a market for profits. But whose profits? Do those profits go directly to the laborers, or are those profits going directly to the owner of the fields? So, for the creator of this deck, the Four of Trees, which would be the Four of Pentacles, and the Smith-Waite deck, it's the card of greed, oftentimes, right? This is apathy or anger over disparity of wealth differences, the haves and the have-nots, and the need to confront insecurities. And because sometimes we might be feeling like we're putting in the work but not getting the rewards. We put in the work and the rewards are going to someone else. And I'm going to quote directly from the book here. The author says, if you feel that your time is not being valued, confront the problem. If it still does not work itself out, it may be time to put your energy elsewhere. So there might be the need for us to transition to another place of working, another environment of working if we don't feel appreciated. But we also might want to check whether or not we're actually appreciated. Are we getting rewards that we're not really fully aware of? Are we comparing ourselves with other people, but we should not be comparing ourselves with those people. We should be just examining who we are rather than making comparisons and evaluating, well, I'm not getting this and he's getting that and she's getting that and he's doing that and they're doing that and I'm not, right? Because when we do those kinds of comparisons in those ways, we are cutting ourselves off from the power of intention, from our potential for living intentional lives. So, this card again was beneath what? The happiness card. So, we want to embody our happiness and be careful of apathy. Be careful of being angry over disparity of wealth. Confront our insecurities and not confront them like, insecurity, I'm gonna kill you, but rather confront them in the sense of, oh, look, I'm experiencing insecurity. Recognizing it, naming it, and then perhaps finding a way to release it, right? Instead of getting tied up into the competition that we were talking about of you get this much and I don't get that much and I get this much and he doesn't get that much and so there's this zero-sum game. And disengage from that zero-sum game that is indicated here. Having faith and knowing that we can create our universe in all the meanings that contains. Does that make sense? So I think this reading is advice for the Lenormand reading that we did earlier this week. And I hope you recognize that. Do you recognize that? If you do, let me know in the comments below. If you do not, if you think that they are in conflict or something, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And again, if you want a reading from me, I had that QR code earlier in the video, but I'll also in the description box below put my website address, and I'll also give you my email address in case you want to send me an email and say I want a reading. We can work it out there too. Okay, friends? So here we are. Thank you. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. All of those things that you do help the community grow, help show this community to other people so that they can find out if they're interested or not. So you're a benefit to those people as well, and thank you. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.